Welcome everyone. My name is Sean, and today I want to talk about a phenomenon that's going to be a problem more and more in this nation as programs like Build Back Better, the Inflation Reduction Act actually being about climate change, and Pete Buttigieg being in our transportation secretary's office, focusing not just on the racism in the roads.
I'm still surprised that some people were surprised when I pointed to the fact that if a highway was built for the purpose of dividing a white and a black neighborhood, or if an underpass was constructed such that a bus carrying mostly black and Puerto Rican kids to a beach, or that would have been in New York, was designed too low for it to pass by, that obviously reflects racism that went into those design choices. I don't think we have anything to lose by confronting that simple reality, and I think we have everything to gain by acknowledging it and then dealing with it, which is why the Reconnecting Communities, that $1 billion, is something we want to get to work right away putting to work.
But how we need to fix transportation so that you stupid Americans who like your cars are no longer utilizing your cars. And that, of course, is the creation of bike lanes in areas where people do not ride bikes, just to say that you're doing something about global warming while forcing the average everyday residents of the United States of America into ever-increasing traffic, because look at how pristine those bike lanes are next to these clogged roads that you're shrinking in order to build them out. But before we get into that, I want to say thank you to everybody who signed up over at actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
And thank you to the podcast listeners, Spotify, Apple, and Google's podcasting platform.
It's rush hour.
Everybody trying to get home.
But on Harford Road in Hamilton,
treacherous.
it's no hour to be in a rush.
Oh my gosh, this is always jammed up.
The frustration began to soar when this 4-lane road became a 2-lane road. The city used the additional space to create bike lanes.
So if you were to list all of the problems that afflict the city of Baltimore, I guarantee you, not in the top 10, not in the top 20, not in the top 100 problems that you could list would be the fact that bicyclists need more bike lanes, because you know what would be really sweet if there were super awesome bike lanes for the people riding their bike in the city of Baltimore. You would talk about crime, you would talk about education, you would talk about corruption, all of these different issues before bike lanes, but it turns out that Baltimore, the Biden administration, and Pete Buttigieg feel completely differently from you, because they decided to allocate money in order to change a 4-lane busy thoroughfare into a 2-lane road with bike lanes on either side, because bike lanes just make Democrats feel oh so special, and it appeases their god, Greta Thunberg, who wants to destroy capitalism.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
And has moved on from even talking about climate change, as if we didn't already know that was the goal all along.
But those who live and work along this road say there's one little problem.
How many bikes have you seen?
I haven't seen a bike around here since I've been around.
How often do you see bicycles out here?
Not often. You'll see more people jogging and running than you'll see them in this bike lane.
Yeah, obviously there are no people riding bikes in the city of Baltimore, because if you rode a bike in the city of Baltimore, you wouldn't be doing it for long, because your bike would get stolen, because it's the city of Baltimore. That's why the security guard says he's never seen a bicyclist on this area. It's not a thing that is done, but that will not stop the Democratic Party. That will not stop Mayor Pete Buttigieg, the transportation secretary, from putting bike lanes across this country to essentially try to force you into those bike lanes by creating hazardous traffic conditions that are so bad you might think that that's a good alternative. And by the way, it definitely isn't. it definitely won't work. It definitely will backfire, but they'll never change it because they've already accepted the money from the federal government, from Build Back Better, from the Inflation Reduction Act, in order to bike lane the hell out of your area. And this is a hellscape that many places in the United States of America are going to be dealing with for years to come.
So just how many bicyclists are pedaling down these coveted bike lanes? We decided to start counting. And on this sunny afternoon, we staked our ground along this congested stretch of Harford Road. We began keeping watch at 4 o'clock. By 5 o'clock, our bike watch had become a long wait. And by the end of rush hour at 6, we did discover a garbage can blocking a bike lane and a scooter going around a bike lane, but not one bicycle had been pedaled or pushed down this stretch of Harford Road.
Imagine that. You have a very busy road, major thoroughfare, big street, all that used to be a 4-lane road. They decide that they're going to have it in order to give bike lanes on either side. They didn't even have the decency to put it just on one side, and you don't have a single bicyclist during rush hour on this particular area on a Sunday day, where they basically picked everything perfectly to see people out there cycling. It never happened. It's absolutely horrific, and what you end up finding is that it's a lane for a garbage can, and even a scooter that could have potentially been in the bike lane would rather be in the street just to make things more chaotic. Now, I live in New York City. We have a lot of bike lanes, but the thing is, you can at least argue that those bike lanes are due to the fact that people ride their bicycle in New York City. That is a real thing, but apparently in Baltimore, that's the thing that just doesn't happen. And again, I think it might be down to the fact that crime should be a #1 priority in that particular city, because if you ride a bicycle in Baltimore, I guarantee you somebody else will be riding it, and that would be the person that stole that bicycle from you.
It's not really safe for no bicyclists to be riding up and down this road, to be honest with you, because they got road rage up here.
Now, this lady right here says it's not safe to be riding your bike in the city of Baltimore because people have road rage, and I would just like to pause for a second and cut out all the unnecessary details in that sentence and restate it in a more factual way, because I hate excess information when it doesn't need to be delivered. It's not safe in Baltimore. Period. End of sentence. It doesn't need you to be on a bike. It doesn't need you to be in a car. It doesn't need you to be anywhere for any other reason. Baltimore is a dangerous place with one of the highest murder rates, not just in the United States of America, but actually in the world. In fact, Latin American cartel-controlled areas pale in comparison in some years to what we see in Baltimore City each and every year. It's always in the top 3 in homicides. The only place that can beat it consistently is the city of St. Louis, and trust me, the reason why people are killing each other in the streets, the reason why crime is out of control, has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that you don't have enough bike lanes in that particular city for no one to use.
The city is now on a mission to transform many freshly paved vehicle lanes into bike lanes. In many neighborhoods, community leaders are shaking their heads.
All around the country, there are elitist people, fanatical people who believe that they want to improve the world by getting rid of cars. And the way they're going to do it is by narrowing every street that they can, even though it has a negative impact, economic impact on the city.
Look, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know what he does, but he's right. He's correct. He's accurate. Make him the mayor of Baltimore City and let him tear down by hand all of these bike lanes, because he has diagnosed the problem, which is all over the country we have these elitists who hate cars, and they do crap like this to make driving worse, to talk about how we need public transportation in order to compensate, even though things were just fine before they went out of their way to make things worse like they did in the city of Baltimore. And by the way, this damages this area economically, and considering that you have theft that is out of control, that closes stores in a bunch of major areas, and that causes people to drive further in order to get things like groceries, you're just making it more difficult, more time consuming, and making those people more unproductive by increasing traffic, because you want to have climate goals met in order to impress Mayor Pete Buttigieg.
In this city, they go far for everything that we don't need versus what we do need.
I mean, off the road, woo.
At the end of rush hour, we did find Angel Cook making use of the bike lane on her motorized scooter. She admits she's only here because her car was recently stolen, but insists bike lanes do have value.
So here we have one person that's using the bike lane. Of course, they're in a scooter, not on a bike. And hilariously, the only reason that she's on this scooter is because of problem #1 in Baltimore, that we talked about earlier in this video, which is of course crime, and the fact that crime is so out of control that her car was stolen, so now she has resorted to riding a scooter and utilizing the bike lane. Now, she is the only person that is defending this in Baltimore. She's the only person who's saying that this has value, but to be clear, the whole purpose of this program is to force you out of your car onto these bike lanes, and she was forced by a different mechanism, a different thing that the government is not taking care of, which of course is the insane spikes in crime that we've seen across this country, the insane spikes in car theft, and Baltimore could be patient zero for this issue, and we're seeing a victim of that basically agreeing with her abuser, the city that does not look out for her, and saying, oh wow, bike lanes have so much value, praise Greta Thunberg, the patron saint of destroying capitalism, I mean of global warming and fighting against climate change.
People might not like it, but it's needed. I mean, it will help the economy.
But on this day, all we found were 2 bikeless lanes.
No, it's not needed. No, it won't help the economy. And I just explained to you how it won't help the economy. So now I'd like to move on to this still image, because what I see in this frame is golden rims, which just goes to show you that Baltimore residents and their government are both prioritizing what's more important, which is aesthetically pleasing stuff for other people that have no functioning value. Look, the fact of the matter is, whether you like it or not, whether you think you could redesign or reimagine this country or not, this nation is built around the car. Our major cities happen to have come into existence or happen to have been built out more when we had vehicles for transportation, when Americans were expected to own a car and expected to drive. And if you want to add in public transportation, the best way to do so is not to cut down the roads. It is not to add in bike lanes. It's not to build trains all over this country. It is, in fact, to add busing. And by the way, when I talk about adding busing, I don't even mean municipal busing. Just allow people to bus people, to drive people from place to place, because when you're set up and built around the car, the idea that you're going to change us into a European style city, which works with mass transit because those cities were built around walking, so everything is densely packed, it's just not going to happen. And all of these people who try to reimagine it, who try to enforce their ideology on this country, are hurting average everyday citizens. They're not looking for positive solutions, because in reality, they're not trying to alleviate problems with cars. They're trying to crush cars because they're ideologically opposed to it. And I will just point any of you to this map of the United States. It's an actual size map. I will paste it over Europe so that you can see there's much more population density. Our country covers a much wider span, and unless you want to force people into the cities, make the cities more densely populated, which by the way, a lot of these global warming types actually do when you talk to them, it's not going to happen. It's going to make the problems worse, and that's what we're experiencing in Baltimore. You have a city that is in the top 3 each and every year in terms of murders. You have a city where the clearance rate for homicide is going down dramatically, and instead what they're doing is creating more traffic, building bike lanes for no one, all to appease the god that is Greta Thunberg, and to make Pete Buttigieg feel happy because he can pretend like he accomplished something. It's absolutely horrific. It's terrible, but expect more of it, because this is the actual goal and objective of Build Back Better, of the Inflation Reduction Act. When they talk about infrastructure, they're not talking about fixing what needs to be fixed. They're talking about stupid projects that they can give themselves a pat on the back for that don't actually help anybody. But guess what? Your climate score is A+ Baltimore all the way. People are being murdered each and every day. You went through a stretch where you had 36 homicides in a row, and all of them were unsolved in the month of January to February, but I'm sure these bike lanes will alleviate that tension. Now look, those are just my thoughts. Let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments below. If you like the video, show them by leaving a like. Subscribe for more content. Follow me on all my social media. Support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Baltimore building bike lanes for some ungodly reason. Till next time.